John Sylvester.
It looks like John, Mary Beth, and Lori, right? Yes.
I didn't see
Mary Beth.
Not like, no other members of the
Yeah, I didn't go back.
Not yet. Beginning next.
There, yeah. Oh, we do this. No, great. Could you keep it up like that so we can see it? Somebody pops in and we can see them. Thank you.
You ready?
Still your chair. I sent for the keys.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 11th, 2024 meeting of the Alabama County Board of Property Assessment Appeals and Review. We have a motion to call this meeting to order. I can call it to order. We are in order. I may have a motion regarding the approval of the meeting minutes for February 29th. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Augustine?
Here.
Mr. Snipe?
Here.
Ms. Montgomery?
Here.
Here.
Mr. Sewell?
Here.
Ms. Thornton Lara?
Here.
I'm here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And now may we have approval of the regular meeting minutes for February 29th, 2024, March 14th, 2024, and March 26th, 2024. Motion, please.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 29th, March 14th, and March 26th.
And a second. Thank you. All in favor? All, any opposed? So moved. And moving into public comment period, who do we have today who wishes to speak? Mr. Sylvester, I see your hands up.
Yes, sir.
Begin.
I have a list that I'll try to compress. Number one, I have a big thank you and an equally big apology. The thank you is that right to know requests for two particular videos are now posted on your website. I don't know if you've gone to your website to see those. The apology is I need to withdraw the right to know request. I've just been overly busy. I don't like to kvetch, but this week I've settled 2 BOVs, but unfortunately for the backlog, I've filed 5 new BOV appeals. So I'm kind of a little bit behind. Item 4B on the solicitor's report does address Richards and Gingrich. It does not address Burns, although that might have been done administratively. Mary Beth might be able to address that at some point in the meeting. I don't see her on the agenda, but my client Burns contacted her on the same issue of 2022 not being issued. Mary Beth said, go and talk to your attorney. I just love representing a client that sticks up for themselves, especially a woman. And she said back to Mary Beth, this is not my problem. This is your problem. When I say your, again, this is not the board's fault. This is OPA and the way OPA has botched a number of things, and they do it over and over. On item 4A, I don't see Lulu, but I didn't have time, and I apologize for that, for advising that Lulu at 457P 255. I ended up appealing that to Common Pleas Court BOV. My client just wanted to get it in that part of the system. And gee, I think that's more than enough. So I wish everybody a happy morning and a good day after you conclude the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else for public comment? All right, going into the solicitor's report, and any response that you have from Mr. Sylvester?
I don't. I know that Burns was being looked at, it was a little bit of a different animal than the two on the report, so that's why it doesn't fall under those categories.
Okay.
The first item I have is parcel number 182, R as in Robert 125. This is similar to one of the ones we did last week where there should have been a court lock on the parcel because it was pending at BOV. For some reason, that court lock didn't get entered into the system, so we did issue a 2023 disposition. We did not have jurisdiction over it because it was sitting at BOV. So I would ask that we administratively withdraw that parcel and rescind the disposition from February 29th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Now we are moved.
Thank you. The next two are Mr. Silvestri's clients. It was a 214C as in cat, 158, and 828, J as in Jackson? 125, I do not know my military codes, in case you didn't notice. These were issues where there was a 2022 and a 2023 appeal pending. For some reason, only the 2023s got dispositioned out. There was nothing in the files for 2022. So my recommendation would be to issue the 2022 dispositions for those parcels consistent with the evidence that was in the hearings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are moved.
Thank you. The third, Mr. Silvestri also touched on, I should just pay him a little bit to do my solicitor's report for me. As you can see, we added a button to the BPAAR website where our meetings are going to be put after they're heard. So they're not live. They're not live on that button, but they're archived. So if somebody
Memorex.
has any interest in watching these again or can't sleep at night,
So they're actually videos.
yeah, the videos are, we can all look at ourselves.
It's YouTube.
It's on
It's YouTube.
It's YouTube.
Can you show me how to do that so that every, after the meeting I can?
Yeah, it's actually really easy to do.
And I have it on my YouTube channel already. One view.
Well, the views that might be on there might be me testing.
I know.
it, so- Because I don't think anyone's looking at it.
Yeah.
But just so you all know, it is up there and
Good job.
I was able to create that.
My big face is on it because I'm.
You're
I just
gonna be like putting your camera off now.
Okay.
I know, there's one I'm walking and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be walking around like you. And the very last item I have just for discussion for you today is, you can see we have about 7,000 appeals filed for 2024. Appeals will commence at the end of April, the last week of April, which is also the first week of May. We're going to do residential appeals first so that commercial people have time to get their appraisals and things like that in order. Historically, what happens is if you schedule commercials first, they'll postpone because they don't have their appraisals. So this way, we're just going to give them a little bit more time. So we're going to start residentials first in April and then move on from there. Hearings are going to start at 8 and the last appeal will be scheduled at 3:45 every day.
It's not 340 or
It's 3:45. And just so everyone here knows, we're going to be running 10 appeals, 10 what they call boards a day. That gives us one backup room. So that's almost capacity. That's -1, but that's in case one system goes down.
4 per hour.
4 per hour.
Good.
In 10 rooms. So that's that's basically our max capacity. Again, that's -1 room, and this room can always be used as a backup in case of an absolute emergency. Just keep that in mind because if a reval is pending, we're going to need more space because that number that might work for 7,000, but it wouldn't work for 70,000.
Well, we have this one, plus the one in the library.
During the reval, during the last reval, we actually used the basement.
Yeah.
They actually.
And down there.
Yeah, they put rooms in the basement.
2001 and 2, we had 20 boards. Okay.
I
They
mean,
won't all the way in
right,
the
we
back.
had all those rooms,
Yeah.
like all
We used
rooms
to
down
have
the hallway,
almost the whole floor at one time.
and we had rooms in the basement. I think we were running
You have to
30.
look at that foresight to have the.
Right,
space.
and that's why I just wanted to bring it up to you. So 11 is our max right now without encroaching on other people's space or borrowing other people's space. It was the corner space in the basement, which is kind of.
So it's believed that, since the lawsuit was filed for the reassessment, that it's gonna happen sooner?
Good question.
It will happen, that's all.
Right, it sounds like we're planning for.
Well, I think I just wanted you all to know, like, just to know that 11 is capacity and we're gonna have to start looking forward to where can we find actual space.
Just for the record,
This year.
Okay.
even if we started today, I was the oversight for the 01 in 2012, 3 to 4 years. Everyone's saying a couple years,
3 to 4. I
We
would
have
agree
to
with
go
Mr.
through
Sullivan.
that. Preliminary values, all that.
There's data collection, data entry,
You have to eyeball every property in the county.
so it is a time consuming and costly process.
I'm glad to be on this side of the hall this time, when that happens.
But so keep in mind when you're walking around and you see any space, just like, oh, maybe we can use that space. So, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to the Appeals Department report, Ms. Brown.
Good morning. I believe Ms. Shrimp gave the biggest part of my report in giving you the numbers that we've received thus far and the scheduling beginning April 29th. We are continuing to schedule the residential hearings as stated, and we'll do that through possibly the end of this month, getting all the residential in and working on the commercial for June. The hours are as she stated, and I don't have anything else.
First date of appeals?
April 29th.
Okay, so that's, okay. The schedule actually begins. Okay, very good.
I noticed we don't have hearings the day that we meet, and that's because.
In case we needed this room.
All right.
Yeah, that was my thought, in case we needed the room, and also because we need Ms. Baldwin in our meeting rather than troubleshooting hearing officers.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Brown.
You're welcome.
Or I'm sorry, items from OVA, Ms. Brooks. She's not here? And we shall move on. Items for consideration from our board administrator, Ms. Baldwin.
All right, you guys have my report, or you should have my report. Just taking the first one, the rescind and repair or reissue disposition with current date for parcel ID 979J310. This Ross property owner was subject to a 2022 Gateway School District appeal. That hearing was scheduled and heard on May 23rd of 2022, and the disposition was mailed out in October. She asserts that she did not receive any type of notices with regard to the appeal until she received a tax bill. That's when she went into the mode of trying to, find out what happened actually. So she is requesting so that she can participate in a hearing, provide her own comps and things like that, so she could be a part of it. But if not, she would take a reissue disposition with current date to appeal to the BOV.
Ms. Baldwin, was our mailing address correct?
It was, I did verify that it was correct. She did say that 1244 is, there's a 1244 on another street, and often their mail is getting, exchanged or she gets their mail, they get hers or whatnot.
Should have gotten the tax bill when she could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she came down to the office in tears, actually. She was, she wasn't aware of it, and then went up, so high. She said, I'm gonna have to move back to Westmoreland and whatnot, and she really would like to have it reheard, but if not, she would definitely take a reissued disposition.
So just so everyone on the board knows that there's at least 2 notices that go out, so she missed 2 pieces of mail. So, I don't know that the mail, my recommendation would be to reissue the disposition.
Reissue the disposition. So
All in favor? Any opposed? This is going to do a reissue.
All right, the next item on my list is a rescind and reissue with corrected values for parcel ID 318C 801202. This one was brought to our attention by Mr. DJ Nichols on behalf of his client. He received a disposition notice, and it looks as if the CLR, the application of the CLR was not applied to his,
Building, vacant.
yes, the land was
Yeah.
at 0, and so, yeah, here it is. That was the owner's opinion of value, 326,700. The hearing officer also says that, the owner rep stated CMV of 326,700 and presented sales to justify.
Yeah.
So,
That's not.
right.
And then one was withdrawn. And one was withdrawn, but we were still changing the building value to 0. Just the application of the
CLR was
Yeah.
showing on it. So the CLR was missed on this one. So, just looking for the board.
Motion to rescind and reissue parcel ID 318C 801202.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
And the last one is a reissue disposition with current date for parcel ID 83G134. This came, the request came by way of Marlena Curlini, attorney. She represents the property owner for 735 North Beatty LLC. However, that property is a tenant occupied property, and she states that her client does not receive mail at that address. In fact, she says on the deed, the address to where the owner should receive mailing or the mail is at 286 Latort Road in Millersville, PA. So she is looking to see if the board would reissue a disposition with a current date.
The address
So what's on
correct?
the county? Yeah, what's the county say?
It says accept the 286
address?
Latort Road, Millersville, PA.
That's the official address of the property, correct?
Well,
That's
that
the
is a-
notice, is
No,
that the
it's where
notice
the
mail?
mail goes.
No, yes, that's where the mailing
Oh,
is.
no,
It's not
that's what I'm
the
saying.
address, no.
Yeah.
And she provided documents to support that.
And that is what the notice mailing is according to the county's website.
Yes.
Make a motion to reissue disposition with the current date.
Second.
Parcel ID 83G130.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
I just changed the address on the property. They did it. I was surprised. It was within one business day.
They have a form.
Yeah. That's what we meant to find it, but.
And that would be all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to board approval lists.
Can I make one comment on the 2022 interim?
Okay.
The 2022 interim, Liz had to pull 3 off from here because the building values, the hearing officer set the full value on 3 of them, and they should have not been on the list here. So she did, I'm looking for it right now, sorry, should I? So it's the 2020, here it is, right here, the 2022 interim. So,
Last page.
no, yeah, it is the last page, the next to the last page. So, I will give you the parcel ID numbers in which we are to, 331K 23,
Got it?
917S 46, and 917G 104. Those 3 right there.
They're not part of the,
No.
It'll be administrative.
should we move to remove this?
It's on the record that
They're
that they're just gonna be removed.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so we are then doing starting with lot number 15, M. Mary 76, 15 M. Mary 131, and approval list starting with 500 246, and ending that's all on one page. Excellent. Starting with 25 and 40 and ending with 1669H 51. Next, beginning with 9L 70 and ending with 166H 51. Next to the last is the one that we just removed the 3 parcels from, leaving parcel 561E64 and 354R160. And that's all we have. May I have a motion, please?
Those are recusals. Yeah, those are recusals.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's correct. Pulls and refusals. Mr. Smite?
None for me.
None for me.
None for me.
None for me.
Here.
Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the 4 approvals as stated.
I'll second.
In favor? Any opposed? Passed. Thank you. Going on to old business. Who has Mr. Sully of
Yeah.
Tyler Technology?
Question for Mr. Fabian, any updates on the CLR application in IAS 4?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I had made a request the last meeting, Mr. Fabian, about contacting Tyler to see if they had a training manual for appeals boards. My experience with them is they have training manuals for everything.
I don't know, well, the only training manual I've seen is one which teaches you how to use IAS if you're working in OPS.
I've seen that.
It doesn't, I haven't seen it, the other manual.
Okay, did you make a request? No?
No, I can make a request there.
If you could, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, Mr. Sully. Payment plan.
Yeah, 9D, just one detail that Ms. Shrepp and I talked about. At the last meeting, we talked about it since. It's all about process. Hearing officer hears the appeal. What happens next? The ordinance changed the way we do business. And we're going to have a difference of opinion here, but I think in the end, it's the board's decision what we do. Historically, the board has too many sets of eyeballs on a transaction. I call one hearing a transaction. The intent of the law, and Ms. Baldwin's looking for it, is the word, and
Somebody's in the
Yes,
lobby.
it's Ms. Fuso, I was trying to get her in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Let's do that first.
But here's, while you're looking for that,
Yeah, please let Mrs.
Mr.
Secretary.
Velcro, too.
The middle.
It needs the link work.
Good.
All right,
Go ahead.
may I continue?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm a hearing officer, I hear the appeal. What happens next? Under the new ordinance, it goes to one other entity. Doesn't go to 3 or 4 like we've done in the past.
I
Let me
disagree with that,
finish,
Mr. Lee.
please.
I'm just
I'm a
saying,
board
I'm
member,
just saying I disagree.
and I have this on the agenda.
From a legal perspective.
You
I
can
would-
give us a legal opinion when I'm finished,
Certainly.
okay? It says here in the ordinance, and I'll read it. If you look in the middle, the word "or" is in red.
Hold on.
Or, very clear. For appeal hearings by hearing officers, the board's regulations, Ms. Rep, shall, what does that mean?
Shall mean shall.
Must.
Let me-
Am I correct?
Can I share that?
Is that ambiguous, the word shall?
Except sometimes in the rules of civil procedure where shall means may, but shall in this case means shall.
Yeah, because, I was involved in this process. I wanted to, streamline this. We lost it.
Share?
No, we didn't lose it. I'm trying to share so that the other participants on the,
Okay.
Share?
looking at.
It's thinking.
Yeah, it's taking its time.
There you go.
But I can't read it until I see it. That's good.
Windows?
Got it?
You click on Windows? There you go.
All right, for appeal hearings conducted by hearing officers, the board's regulations shall require that such hearing officers' recommendations be reviewed by no more than one other hearing officer or a board member prior to what we did today, vote on it. So that is an ordinance, a new county ordinance. What BPAAR has done for the last 24 years is a different workflow than that. I asked you the question, Mr. a month ago. Is it legal for the board to just sign off on all the recommendations of the hearing officer?
And my
And you
opinion,
said what?
my opinion that I put in writing,
No, but I'm asking your
yes,
question.
certainly. And
You
I-
said yes. Answering the question.
I don't believe, I believe that the way the current, and the ordinance can't be read in a vacuum. The ordinance has to be read in para with the entire statute. And when you look at the entire statute, section 507E, which this does not amend, says that the board shall, again with the word shall, provide reports of hearings for distribution to the entire appeals board. Reports shall include, but not limited to, findings of fact and conclusions of law and a recommendation to the appeals board.
Yeah.
That is what requires so the board shall do that.
Am I the board?
Yes,
No, I'm a board member.
you're a board member.
The board is the collective wishes of the six of us. Am I right? Or is it just your opinion versus
Well,
yours?
no, and then, let me finish with my,
Yeah.
continue. Section 507 allows the delegation of hearing appeal to hearing officers. But section
If
5,
necessary.
if necessary, absolutely.
What does it necessary mean to you?
If the board decides they would like to delegate the hearing of appeals to hearing officers, it may do so. But it does not permit the board to delegate its final review of a file to a board member or to a hearing officer.
Right.
The ordinance doesn't permit you to do that.
I disagree.
And, well, I'm just saying that
Okay.
I don't believe.
You
that
just gave the board your
That's
opinion.
my legal.
I'm going to move that we follow what I just read, that either a board member, let me finish, please. This
I
is
just want to know
important.
where it came from.
And that's the ordinance, that's the new ordinance.
Yeah, this was signed by the county executive up in Morado and
And it came from the
county
state.
council. No, it's an ordinance. It's not a state statute. It's an ordinance. All right?
Yeah.
So, again, if we don't do what that says, we're just gonna take, it's like a ratchet effect. We're not gonna take one step forward, we're gonna take two steps back and revert back to where we are now.
Can I
let me
ask a clarifying question, Mike, that's all.
No, but let us debate, and,
Okay.
Then you can,
I just had a clarifying
like I
question.
said, you're not a board member, you're
No.
our
So
solicitor,
from a workflow
and I'm gonna
standpoint,
respect that.
I just had a clarifying question I wanted to ask you.
Okay, go ahead.
And that's what I just.
And then I'll make my motion.
Yes, because
And hopefully someone will second
I don't
it.
particularly understand your motion, and that's what I'd like to ask.
Well, I didn't finish it.
So what you're saying is you work, from a workflow standpoint, you would like a hearing to be heard, and then a board member or a case file reviewer reviews
It
it.
doesn't say case file, there's no such language in any ordinance.
You let another hearing officer review it.
Well, we're gonna delegate that to people who are qualified. And I'm saying,
And then the entire,
General
and then the entire
appraisers,
board, it comes to the
I
entire
would
board.
give it to a general appraiser.
And that was my, I wanted to know what
Yeah,
workflow you're.
and again, this is workflow and this will be processed. And collectively, if this motion is approved, we as a board decide, I could sign off on all of them. I could come in every day, all right, and just sign off on all of them. We would be complying with the law, correct? Right now, we assign, some of us still have in the drawer back there, stuff that we need to finish. And what I'm saying is, if we had some of our better hearing officers, and we delegate, it gives us, we can make a decision which hearing officers can review. All it is a review.
We need to change
Well,
the
let me
contract.
finish. So if we approve this motion, all right, we're still gonna have the same end result where we vote up or down. I still have the option to look at any appeal recommendation and say no. And everybody on here, isn't it in our board regulations that 4 of us say no, we're not approving something? There's a procedure for that, am I right?
I think if one of you says no.
Are you
there's
saying
a
yes?
procedure. There is a procedure. There's a
Yeah.
procedure for if somebody says.
Well,
no.
I'm just saying, the majority of the board, then we have to listen to the recording and all of us go back and decide what we're gonna do with it. So we still have all those options that we've always had. We could have voted no on everything we just voted on now. We still have that option. But better trained hearing officers, which we talked about at the last meeting, that we're just gonna move forward and work with the individuals who have made some of those mistakes, and hopefully we can, if I get a good recommendation from a hearing officer, and I can't sign off, I'm okay with some of our commercial, general appraisers, or residential appraisers. We have a number of them as hearing officers. I'm okay with them signing up. In the end, we still have the final say.
And it says that in that next sentence, right? It
Right.
says, prior to a vote, option by the board.
Yeah, so we can say thumbs down.
So we're still, so I'm not sure what the motion is for.
Okay, here's what the motion is for. That our rules, is this in our rules or
No,
not?
if this is,
You told me that you put all of this in our rules.
okay,
and
so
regs.
this is in our rules. This ordinance is in our rules.
No, this
This,
passage.
yes, this passage is in our rules,
So,
verbatim.
so do I even have to make a motion?
No, you're talking about workflow,
Well, this is workflow too.
right, but you're
So,
talking about actual
Let me
workflow.
just ask
I
the
think.
board, this is a public meeting and we can debate and disagree respectfully, okay?
Sure.
But the intent of this ordinance is to get the results out sooner rather than later. Ms. Baldwin told me, a couple or somebody came in last Friday. They had a hearing in 2022 and they were angry.
Yeah.
That they didn't get the result. We have to stop that.
Mike, we all agree that, and we have to keep remembering that these past years, particularly 2023, was exceptional. And,
That isn't what I'm talking
yeah, but the ordinance
That's all.
that we're adopting, we're all in alignment and agreement with getting these out in the timeframe.
So you're in agreement with what that says, or is that ambiguous?
I am, it's not ambiguous, and it says a
Are
final
you
board check.
in
so-
agreement that the board will decide which hearing officers can be our proxies?
Well, it's not a proxy because it says, that last sentence after your or, it says, prior to a vote on adoption by the board. So a board member's still gonna have a final say in it, so I don't think.
It doesn't say the board member has to sign. That's where Ms. Shrepp and I disagree.
It says,
We don't
Prior-
touch I don't touch your
it says,
recommendations, and you don't touch mine.
prior to a vote on adoption by the board, so it's still a final.
Okay, here's my point. 2 sets of eyeballs before we vote. Is everyone in agreement? Because I'll enforce this. I'll bring it to the board's attention if we're not following this right now. We are not. And that's my concern. I don't want to break the law. And again, our solicitor is saying maybe that's ambiguous. Is that?
No, I guess I didn't understand. I thought, and just so you understand, I thought that you meant I understand what you're saying about having certain, like you have your proxy. You pick who you would like to be your proxy.
The board does,
Right.
not me.
Well, I was thinking maybe each, because maybe Mr. Snipe doesn't feel comfortable with letting someone else, he wants to review all his himself. I think he would have the right to do that. Would you agree with that?
100%.
So maybe he doesn't want someone to be his
I
proxy.
said earlier
But you,
that I could approve all of them.
right,
Just come in every day.
but let's say that Mr. Snipe doesn't want, and I'm gonna use Mr. Fabian because I know he used to be a commercial hearing officer. He doesn't want Mr. Fabian to do that. He wants to keep that task for himself because Mr. Snipe likes to look at zone files. So he would have the right to do that. You would agree with me, right?
I'm gonna add one thing to that. He'll get it done within 60 days?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we're set to get it all done in 60 days, I'm not sure why we're putting things in place. We're recovering from an exceptional year. We have a new ordinance in place.
But there,
And it states already in the ordinance that prior to a vote on adoption by the board, so we have the flexibility, everything's in
we're on the
place.
same page.
I think we are.
And when we have a reassessment, we're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to trust. See, our hearing officers, we trust, we hire, but sometimes they make mistakes. Another set of eyeballs on the recommendation before it comes before this board. That's a must. Whether it's you, Mr. Snipe, or when you, Mr. Fabian, when you were a hearing officer, if you came in for one day and just eyeballed recommendations, I would trust, you're a general appraiser, I would trust your judgment. That's my.
Just so I can finish my statement where where my ambiguity was. Because I thought you were talking about the case file reviewers. And that is not their role and they are not trained to do that.
There's nothing in there about case.
But in our workflow currently, that's what we have. And
It's gone.
that's what I didn't want that to happen.
I say we throw that out the window. There's nothing in any ordinance about case reviewers. That's something we just made up for the last 24 years that delayed this process. And I'm not going to go backwards. I want to go forward.
No, but you can see, that was
sets of
my ambiguity.
We're okay.
Don't we already have two sets of eyeballs?
No, no. I talked to Mr. Chuck Berry. He admitted that it went through 6 sets of eyeballs. He heard the hearing and he was the 6th set of eyeballs and he said, oh, I made a mistake back there. Okay, it went through 6 people. I could bring him in today, and I said, that's ridiculous. And he said, that is ridiculous. He said he made a mistake, but it wasn't caught, just like the even hotel. There's a mistake made.
People make mistakes.
People make mistakes, and that's why it's good to have a second set of eyeballs. But part of the delays is us, and if there's a reassessment, 100,000 appeals, I don't know how Mr. Snipe, you could look at, 20,000 in 60 days, right? That's the
We've
intent.
been done it twice before.
Nothing to
What
do.
is the process?
Well, with the case.
We would need to redo their contracts because their contracts don't cover that.
I don't think we're there yet.
But no, I'm just saying, we would need to redo.
Oh, you reminded
We would
me.
need to-
Speaking of contracts, the council, you and I talked about this, I want to share this with the board. Yes, a board member may hear appeals, and they've worked out, the only issue was, is it a 1099 or a W-2? And I was told by Mr. Valrola that we're good to go. So if any board member wants to hear appeals, we sign the contract, the independent contract agreement. We're a board member here, we're, contracted, whatever, hearing officer. Now, the other thing about this is, if you could go to number 2. And I'm glad you brought this up, because if I hear an appeal, you see what's different there? What's different?
Someone else will sign off.
A board member,
Other than other boards, someone else.
not a hearing officer. Because that's sacrosanct in my opinion, that the board member,
You're their boss. Wouldn't want,
well,
you don't want to approve your boss's work, right?
I don't know, boss, whatever.
Supervisor, I mean,
Yeah, I know what you mean, but so there are 2 layers there. One is board member hearing appeals, Mr. Snipe, all of you. you must look at my recommendations. And I believe, Susan, you're going to hear appeals? Okay, anyone else? So if two of us hear appeals, the four of you have to look at our
Just
recommendations.
one of the four, right?
And-
Yeah, just one.
Well, he said 4, I was afraid that we were going to say all 4.
Well, I'm saying there's 6, 2 from, that's what I was doing.
Hopefully we get to 7.
No, but
So-
I'm just bringing this up at a public meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Because sometimes we steer off a little bit. We're doing the best we can. I agree with you. We're doing the best we can. So, any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Baby?
First of all, this thing that you saw here, it came from the state. It's a mirror of the state policy.
is.
Wait, somebody's shaking their head. Came from the state policy. Of all the counties in the state, there's only 3, 4 counties that don't follow this. This is for every other county in the state because all they have is a board. They don't have hearing officers. The board does it all. That's why this is written.
You're correct.
And they mirrored it. But it doesn't really, it's not practical from the standpoint of, one, clerical mistakes, 2, when we did the reassessment in 12, I was the designated hearing officer, appraiser to review. I worked 6 days a week. I heard hearings one day, came and reviewed appraisals the other 5 days. And it was 117,000 appeals. And then I handed it to the board, but I was not looking for, nor can you expect any general appraiser to go in and look at the clerical issues that might have occurred in the system. Just like people who are doing the clerical checking should not be involved in the decision of the hearing officer. It works both ways. So if you're talking about making a clerical change, I would say that that's a big mistake because we find mistakes, they find mistakes all the time.
We correct them.
But it takes more than one set of eyeballs to do that. You have one person looking at it for like an appraiser. Then you have one person who has to enter data who looks at it. And unless we can get the CLR put in a button in the system as you requested, then you have to have some means to put the CLR in after everybody's done with it.
See, my vision is that we get, it's a data entry function. We pay somebody to come in. The chief assessor for Washington County told me that it takes him, he has IAS World, just like we do, it takes him 5 minutes to put everything into the system. They send the dispositions out in 10 days. We're given 90 days. We're bigger, we have more stuff.
60 days.
60 plus 30. Vote on it, and then there's a grace period of about 30 days to print out the disposition.
But
Am I right?
that happens in 24 hours, so that is actually a,
It doesn't say that in the ordinance.
right, but it gives us
That's
30,
efficient.
it gives us 30 days that we don't need. It gives us 30 days that's sort of,
It just
Great,
is what it is.
but we don't need it.
Right?
right, but we don't need it.
Yeah.
It's
I've been telling people 69.
it's 60, it's
People
60.
have to have expectations.
For this board's concept, it's 60, because you guys have to vote in 60.
Yeah. But we're all in agreement on 2 sets of items. It says accuracy and consistency with applicable, appraisal law, practice. Again, I don't know if you could make the change. I don't know. But what you were describing was hearing officer hears the appeal, you were reviewing 6 days a week, and then a board member had to sign on.
Yes.
That's 3 sets of eyeballs.
But I was.
And what I'm saying is, this eliminates that 3rd step, if you're doing that. And you know what, you're a you're a chief assessor for the county. I would trust you if you ever came back to.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, but I was reviewing appraisals. And,
Oh, you were only reviewing appraisal.
oh yeah, only appraisals, nothing else, both commercial and residential. And then because of the volume, they gave me, I think, 6 hearing officers who were at least brokers or associate brokers or appraisers, and I train them to do review because we have so many appraisals.
Thanks.
But that wasn't
Understood,
any type of clerical issue. We didn't do anything clerically.
understood. I think we're on the same.
And just to clarify, board members did not look at, there was a spreadsheet that Mr. Fabian would do,
Yes.
and that spreadsheet got signed off on by the board, not individual files.
Yes,
So
that's
there-
right, that's correct, yeah.
So again, I thought you were talking about the case file review process, that being the second set of eyes. There is historical practice for the board to do what you're suggesting, to delegate.
This is new,
But there is historical practice during the reval, during the.
but we agree in
reassessment
2 sets of eyes, not 3,
That can happen.
right? And like I said, I just want us to get the work out. And we have, Barbara's gonna go over the training for tomorrow. You know, better trained hearing officers means less mistakes. You know, even we make mistakes, right? Not you. But some.
We all make
No, I'm
mistakes.
just saying, we all do.
And as a matter of speaking, the files I just came in to review today, still have, I have 4 different hearing officers signed for files that I had to sign off. 2 of them are still doing double work, reprinting both of those fees, and I am not, I've been asking them since October. I'm not signing off on 2 sheets that are the same. So 2 people have 1 sheet, have both here, and the other 2 are still doing double work, which,
Fingers crossed by June, paperless,
I was hoping. Yeah, we're there,
fingers crossed. I mean, we're working very hard on the whole paperless
which is a
concept,
good thing.
which will be nice. So
Yes.
fingers crossed.
So I can
Please don't-
review something at home.
Don't quote me on June, but fingers crossed, that's what I'm working on. I wish we could do it before this appeal season, but the time window is just a little bit too tight.
But we're all on the same page. I think we're beating the dead horse.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Item C, BPAAR market value.
We brought this up before. I don't think I have to make a motion on this. I talked about the Macy case.
And I agree with you, Mr. Sully, because I know where you're going, because we've had this conversation multiple times. And just for everyone's edification, my legal opinion is January 1 of the tax year is what the Office of Property Assessment uses as the snapshot in time. And it's a rule of thumb. It's not.
That's
hard.
OPA.
And so, well, OPA, it's a hard and fast rule for OPA.
What is it for BPAAR?
For BPAAR, you look at the evidence presented and you make your recommendation. And it should be that it is.
We're gonna have a little
It's the
discussion.
date the appeal is filed, is
Yes.
the effective date.
Okay,
However,
can we stop right there? Tomorrow at the training, I would like all of us to be on the same page. That it's the date that the appeal was filed. And I'll tell you what, you have a hearing in May, all right? You have a hearing in June, July, October. And some of our hearing officers are accepting comparables where the house sold a week before the hearing. So we're not treating everyone the same. You know, if I get an earlier hearing, that would be an advantage to a homeowner. If I have a hearing in October, that's an advantage to the school district. And what I'm saying is, as of the day the appeal was filed, and we haven't been following
and
for 24
well,
years.
I think part of the problem becomes then the hearing officer, I can add this building because the building was put on January 3rd, but you can't add the building because for tax value, the building doesn't come on until the next tax value year. So I think that they get confused.
But we have gotten confused.
But I'm just telling you, but I mean, legally, it's the day the appeal was filed. Or you want to go with the very
Well, I've
last
had
appeal
hearing
date,
officers ask me,
March
and I'm
31.
just, and I talked to
And they've got
over the
plenty
years
of legal
to-
opinions that say it, they just like to forget it.
owner representatives saying, why do you let the other party submit a sales comparable a week before the hearing in October? It's just not fair. And if we treat everyone the same, as of the day it was filed, they can submit whatever the evidence. I've always,
I agree with that.
the appeals board, the first 3-4 years would say, you can't submit that.
You take
You
it,
weren't here then, but I think you, and that became a big political issue. You don't tell an appellant or with anybody, you're not allowed to submit that. I would let that, whoever we're talking to, submit everything. and then I decide.
That has been policy.
But I'm just saying, I haven't
Now,
practiced.
whether you use it or not, it's a different story.
And again,
But you accept everything.
that's what we look, I know, but I don't accept sales comparables after the date the appeal was filed. We're all in the,
And
that's state law,
as a hearing
and we'll call
officer,
our court.
how you handle your case. But you don't turn down any evidence.
We're on the same page.
You never turn down
We're on the same page.
I just want to.
You can't use the word accept with hearing officers, they'll interpret it differently.
Well,
They will,
we have training tomorrow, okay? I would
Don't use
love
the word accept.
all of us to just say, well, hey, as of the date the appeal was filed. But what if they submit a sale from yesterday, from Multi-Res? Let them submit it, but don't give it as much weight. That's my, I don't know if we all agree, but I'm talking about, this is important stuff. Treat everyone the same.
We can discuss it more tomorrow. Going on to item D. Ex parte communications prior to hearings.
And I brought this up, and then we had an executive session. I just want us to be firm on our policy that you must submit evidence 10 days before the hearing. Now, sometimes you give people slack. We do. Am I right?
We
Who
do.
signs off on that?
The board solicitor or the board administrator.
Okay, I'm okay with that. But is anyone permitted to submit evidence after the hearing?
No,
No.
no, not after the close.
No.
Unless, I know, I will be,
Don't say
no,
unless.
no, here's what I'm gonna say, unless on the record, the parties agree that they're okay with them emailing the evidence
I agree.
later. So that, when I'm saying there's an exception, that's the exception. The parties
So
agree on the
We will
record.
never, ever talk to third parties, and I'm saying county assessors, after the hearing.
No, they should not.
Yeah, and the chief assessors here, if the county assessors want to attend the hearing and submit evidence, great. Everybody submitting
Or
evidence,
hearing officers.
that's the way it used to be.
The hearing officers, excuse me, can put the hearing on hold.
Oh, I agree,
And they're on the,
we're good.
Mr. Fabian, they're on the floor, they can access them, they can get to them during the hearing.
Yes. And that's been the process, and the hearing is always on hold while they're here, while on the phone.
Oh, yeah, I've done, I was an authorized rep for many years, right? Yeah, finished. And then the last one, Mr. Chairman, was just a question. Will we ever go back to in-person hearings, or are we still stuck in the COVID mode? Because I've only been here 6 months, half of us. There was never any discussion about in-person hearings. We're already telling the public, we're gonna have the phone hearings. And my only concern is, you go across the street, everything's in person, right?
No, it's not.
No, it is true, some of it's in person.
For the viewers,
No, well, viewers is live, but I mean, I know
but I remember,
motions court isn't live anymore.
but what I'm saying is, I remember being on a Zoom call with the Board of Viewers back in 2021,
I think
but they don't do that.
I think the great thing might be is to ask, like, get an idea from the public, what I think a lot of people, public-wise, like being on the phone, because then they don't have to come down here and navigate.
Yeah, like.
See, I think people like coming down here
No.
and getting us help, okay? I've heard hearings and
Wait.
some of us have.
If you allowed in-person hearings, the first thing that would happen is it would destroy your 4 hearings an hour system, would destroy it. Because when they're in person, they want to talk. Not every hearing officer manages the hearing the same way. That's number one. Number two, they have to take a day off of work. I'm talking about the public. I'm not talking about attorneys or any board members or any hearing officers. Take off a day of work, pay for parking, sit here and wait for a hearing. I would be here some nights doing hearings up to 6:30 at night, because the room next door, which is now the toy room, was where they would wait for me. And you could not just leave at 4 o'clock. You had to service them and that. And sometimes they'd be here for hours. Why? The worst part is when they bring an attorney in, no offense. But the attorneys now put on a show for the owner. They put on a show so they could run up their bill. And so I'm telling you that what
Glad you
happens.
said that, not me.
I'm telling you what happens. There's some attorneys that come in, they put the evidence on and they're done. John's the exception to that. But the point is that they put on a show. Okay, fine. And so the whole thing that you're trying to accomplish by streamlining, making it efficient, goes completely out of the window, and you're putting a hardship on the public. Nobody complains now when you're on a phone hearing. I've done thousands of them.
Yes,
And that's.
I've heard
fine.
hundreds of
Evidence-
people complain about the phone hearing.
Well, wait, then.
Don't say nobody,
Well,
please.
I said, I haven't heard anybody complain about it. But then you have the evidence issue. Now the evidence is on base during the hearing, fine. If you have an in-person hearing, they'll still do that, but then they'll bring evidence in and hand it to you. That evidence has to be processed, just like everything else. You can't just toss
Mr.
it.
Fabian, if I may just stop. I'm not making a motion. I'm just saying, are we gonna do telephone hearings forever? I'll tell you what, I was an authorized rep. I represented thousands of people before this board in the early 2000s. And I would come in with my evidence at the hearing. And I would look at the solicitor for the school district and the hearing officer who had a name badge on. I knew who everyone was, and the eye contact, it's just a different type of environment. And what I'm saying is the phone hearings are okay. I'm okay with it. I'm not saying I'm against it, but maybe we could look down the road.
Perhaps consideration of an option.
That's where I was going with that. You know, if we have a reassessment, I used to hear appeals in this room in the 90s. I heard eight appeals per hour, and I'm not saying we should do that. And people would come in just to complain, and they'd say, you know what, my assessment's okay, but you guys are crazy and blah, blah. But I eventually, after doing enough hearings, I was polite, but you can see when I'm not polite, right? So, but I would just cut them off and I'd
Understatement of the
say,
day.
what's your house worth? And they'd say, I have no idea. And I'm sure you've heard that. I have no idea. You tell me, and I'd say, there it is.
right.
So all I'm saying is,
And closing?
yeah,
Maybe do a poll? That would be.
we don't have to do it today,
No,
but think
no.
about it. I'm of the opinion that I can't make a decision that in-person hearings are better than telephone. But what if the public wanted to come down? You know,
Well, I've done that. Occasionally, somebody shows up for when there's a phone hearing, but they show up here. And they come in the room.
so they're allowed?
They're allowed.
Yeah, some people
I've had them
do.
come
Is that a
in.
board policy?
We don't turn them
It's not
away.
in writing.
These are owners.
I don't think we have many policies.
But if I'm a property owner, I find out the solicitor's there with the hearing officer.
Well, it's open, it is public, all our
It
meetings
is.
are public,
I
so,
agree.
I mean, randos could come and sit in on the hearing if they really
So
want.
as a board, we have no objection to a property owner walking in on the hearing.
Legally, I have no problem with it.
Okay,
I've never
I'm
heard
done.
a problem
Okay, we're done.
discussed. Very good, thank you. We've completed today's agenda. I thank everybody for attending. We will now conclude and adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, can I have a brief executive session to talk about personnel?
Absolutely, we will then have a executive session after the meeting. We are then in adjournment for April 11th, 2024 for the property section. Thank you very much for your.
See you all in June.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful trip, Lou.
Yes, thank you.
Where are you going, Lou?
Asia, that's the short answer.
Safe travels, Lou.
Thank you.
I need some miso. Bring some miso back.
Sure. Yeah, put it on my list.